Today's episode is brought to you by the Vegas Beer Guys.
Everything sequel contains explicit language. And why the fudge not, you melon farmer?
We're back. Today, we're ranking, I don't know what to call them, the end of the Skywalker saga, 7, 8, 9. How about that? My name is Michael Shantz. I'm from the How Dare You Awards. Joining me, the man trying to join me in a mind hump, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Say hi, Tom.
That's not how the Force works.
We'll use the Force.
Working Girls Harrison Ford there, nailing another line read.
Always.
Well, you know, of all the crammed in comedy in these movies,
Yeah.
that was maybe the least offensive.
Oh, really? You're cold?
I don't know about you, but it seems to me that they're always, when they do kind of comedic interchanges between the lead characters in these three movies, they're always aiming for, we're all fine now, we're all right, fine now, how are you? From
Yeah, right.
the original recipe Star Wars. I'm falling spectacularly short every single time.
Yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it, but they do things with certain characters for the sake of comedy.
Yeah.
In these movies that just doesn't work.
Well, and also in the original Star Wars, that's such a unique moment, and it's really only there because Harrison Ford can do it. Like if they went with a different actor, there's no way they would have had this scene. So
sure.
The fact that it's an anomaly in the movie is what works about it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're trying to make every exchange on this level.
That.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So there we are. And I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about Harrison Ford back in Star Wars.
Of course. How could we not?
Yeah.
The character he described as thin. I think it's a little thin for me.
Well, he gets a little thinner when he comes back. Yeah.
Well, here we are. We're we've been working on this series for quite some time.
Yes.
And we're back to finish it up.
In answer to the question you raised in your introduction, I believe these are known as the Star Wars sequels and or the Disney era. Take your pick.
If you say so.
I think Disney era is pejorative, so I'm going to use that. But you'll feel free to use whatever terminology you want. No, you know what? I was really excited to go back to this series and do these movies because I think the sense that people must have is that I hate these movies top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've previously said on this podcast, particularly two of them, with one director in common. But I really
yes.
But I thought, if we're going through these movies scene by scene, you're gonna get an actual, more balanced perspective from me. What works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Rather than just kind of the hate I've been spewing and all the shit I've been talking over the years. Unfortunately, upon returning to these movies, what I realized, or to two movies directed by J.J. Abrams more specifically, the strengths of his filmmaking is that his movies can be entertaining in and of the moment. But the key weaknesses of them is that they do not withstand analysis at the level of storytelling and characterization. And given that that's the majority of what we're going to be talking about on this podcast, it's not looking good.
So, listen, I'm going in an opposite direction, despite the fact that
You're
I'm
gonna have
going despite the fact that I'm going to agree with everything you just said wholesale.
Yeah.
These movies work on a moment-by-moment basis, all three of them. There's good stuff within all of these movies.
There's good people on both sides, I agree.
Yeah, with scene by scene. In total, each movie as a movie falls short.
Yes.
And so I've got problems with all of them, and yet, especially on this particular viewing, I'll say that one movie kind of stayed the same for me. Might have even dropped a little bit, because certainly dropped from my first viewing.
Okay.
Two others kind of raised up in my
Interesting.
estimation of the dregs of where I considered them. And I enjoyed them way more than I thought I would or had in the past on I haven't watched these movies a lot.
Okay.
I've seen The Force Awakens, maybe 4 or 5 times. But the other two I haven't watched more than... one of them I haven't watched more than once.
One of them I haven't.
The other one maybe I'd seen twice. Yeah.
One of them I hadn't watched more than once. The other two I've seen on a regular basis. But going back to everything you said before that, I had exactly the same experience. However, I don't suspect we're talking about the same movies.
I don't think so either.
So I don't think so. But I would agree with everything you said in theory.
Okay.
About your experience of going back to these movies and how your estimation of them shifted up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly down. No, that's I'm just being facetious. No, so
I can't believe how much you hate these movies and how much you'll defend those prequels. It's odd to me.
Oh, these movies are the reason why I feel I have authority to defend the prequels. Without these movies, I don't have a leg to stand on. With these movies, I can point people to another way of doing things which is far more satisfying than whatever they're doing here.
See, but that's not the narrative for fandom. Fandom doesn't find those 3 movies very satisfying.
No, so yeah, and just obviously we're I'll say we're burying the lead. We're burying the middle here, which is that one of these movies is not directed by J.J. Abrams, but by Rian Johnson, who is a very different director.
I think it's just Ryan. Spelled
what did I
differently.
Say, Rian?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because Rian sounds pejorative, so I'm going to use that term. You can feel free to use whatever. Anyway, no.
Oh,
okay,
wait a second. I thought that was the movie you liked.
Hey, we're not there yet. So.
All right.
But you have a different, and I think we both agree that each movie fundamentally falls short, regardless of how much you like each individual movie. That there's a kind of there's an underlying key problem with every one of these movies, no matter which way you cut it. But I was kind of struck watching it this time, how different Rian Johnson's approach to Star Wars is from J.J. Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
Because he approaches it as an indie director.
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to take a wild swing at every kind of trope of this franchise. And so your evaluation of the movie is kind of more like, where are the swings, where are the misses, and how many of each are there? But
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree that there are big swings in that movie. I think I have bigger problems with the big swings than you probably do.
But it's what is a swing? What is a? He took a very different path directorially from J.J. Abrams, who wants Star Wars to be Star Wars and play original trilogy Star Wars and play it as safe and as close to the middle as possible with all the classic elements of the franchise.
Sure.
And Rian Johnson's approach is completely different.
Yeah.
So, I think that's interesting that you have two directors who arguably are equally flawed in their approach to Star Wars, but in two totally different ways.
Sure.
And it's like, what do we have to do to get a decent journeyman director to just come in and make a solid Star Wars? Do you know who I always wanted to direct a Star Wars movie? It's not going to happen now.
Tell me.
But back in the day, I always thought Neil Jordan.
Oh, wow.
I thought,
Why?
I don't know, but I just thought, in the same way, Lucas handed over to Irving Kershner. For some reason in my head,
I was just going to say, you feel like he's a Kershner?
I feel like he's a Kershner. I feel like it's like, so he does these kind of small indie movies like Mona Lisa, but he can do an interview with a vampire working with big stars, and big production.
But you could argue that that's what they do with Rian Johnson, and that movie got bigger.
He's nuts. Based on this movie. A full disclosure, I may hate Rian Johnson outside of The Last Jedi more than I hate J.J. Abrams inside Star Wars.
That is full disclosure.
It is for I walked out of Brick. I thought it was an insult to the genre of film noir. I don't understand what the fuss about Knives Out is about. You can see a better mystery drama Sunday night on PBS any day, any week of the year than Knives Out.
I knew you'd hate him.
Yeah. So, I'm dealing with all of that, and I'm trying to stay as objective as possible because I don't think either of them were the right choice.
So I will
to take on Star
Wars
as a thing.
I will say that with all the kind of hoopla surrounding J.J. Abrams by tackling, first Star Trek and then coming to Star Wars as well.
Yeah.
And kind of being lauded as, oh, that guy gets Star Trek. Oh, that guy gets Star Wars. That's kind of the narrative that was behind at least the first Star Trek
But that's the thing.
of 2009 and The Force Awakens.
Another one of his key strengths as a director, making a promising start.
Mm-hmm.
He's very good at doing that. It's a total smokescreen. Because you get to the second or third movie and you realize that that's all he's capable of doing. Because of the narrative of the mystery box, of that he that's his style of storytelling. He sets up all these mystery boxes, which is why the first installment of whatever he's doing is generally pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this applies to Lost as well. But when you have to develop or resolve
open the
any
box.
of those, you realize whenever you open the box, you realize it's empty and or full of shit. And I think both are true in his movies in this.
Somebody dropped a shit box on my doorstep. What the fuck?
We opened Poe's mystery box and it was full of shit. So he very much, I think he gets away with, like, he gets that narrative as a byproduct of the fact that he's good at making a start.
Mm-hmm.
On a franchise.
Yeah.
And promising a lot. And of course, the problem is he not only does he not deliver, but he doesn't actually have anything to deliver. He comes up short every single time anyone asks him to end something or continue something.
All right. Settle down. Let's not grind the axe too hard right now.
It's not an axe. It's a resume. I'm just reading his resume.
But your 10-minute speech squashed my point, which was that I wanted to say,
yeah,
as I watched the first and the third movie in this trilogy, I come to the conclusion that he doesn't get Star Wars in the way that I think people thinks he gets it.
Well, he refuses to move beyond the vocabulary of Star Wars that was established in the original trilogy. And that means he's unable to construct a coherent fictional world.
Well, without giving too much away, can you be more specific?
Yeah, I'll be specific. Why have the ships in the galaxy not changed in 30 years? One reason, nostalgia. Nothing has happened technologically.
I could push back against that.
Or what is there that's new? What looks different?
Kylo Ren's TIE fighter looks different.
It's a variation.
There are different looking ships.
Not really. I didn't know.
I mean, I get that there are still X-wings, but
it's his project was really backward looking. And whatever you say about the prequels, and about whether it makes any sense that everything was shiny in the past and then dull in the future.
Yes.
That doesn't really make historical sense. But if that doesn't make historical sense, then the idea that nothing
I actually think that
changed.
does make sense.
But it's not the Empire anymore. It's the New Republic. But that would have been like, I'm trying to think of a comparison. Like, yeah, I know. I came up with it when I was doing my notes. iPhones change like yearly. Why would a Star Destroyer
They all still look like a rectangle, though.
My God, you're gonna push.
You're
gonna push back on this? Okay, yeah.
All I'm saying is, if you're the New Republic and you're born out of the ashes of the Empire, you're probably gonna build tech that looked like the Empire.
Who's asking him to do a surrogate empire? Who's asking him to do a surrogate emperor before the real emperor?
I know. Yeah.
Who's asking him? We want to see Han Solo as if he had a bump on the head and forgot everything that happened after New Hope. I mean, these are all choices that J.J. Abrams is making, so to kind of firmly root this in the past, and he just completely misses the point, which is that this is sci-fi fantasy. There's got to be fictional world building. And if you refuse to engage with the idea that 30 years has passed within this fictional world, just for the sake of nostalgia, there's no artistic reason beyond that why he's doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as you said, he doesn't understand Star Wars. He shouldn't be playing in this sandbox.
I don't know. I feel like you're kind of arguing for argument's sake against... No. I mean, 30 years is not that much time.
Not in Star Wars, apparently. Well, actually, that's not true. It's enough to become a legend.
No, that I agree with. Absolutely. There are things going on dialogue-wise in these movies where, like, lines like, I thought he was a myth, is nonsensical. Because not enough time has passed for that to have happened.
Have we, in any meaningful sense, in the two J.J. Abrams movies, move beyond the original discourse of whatever classic trope he's doing every time he does it? Like, is there ever a discussion? Is there ever a time where you're looking at it and going, that's the original construct right there?
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that's essentially, I mean, the fictional world thing is irritating because that's the genre he's in and he should be cognizant of that. But it applies to a characterization, to story. There's no story beat we haven't. No,
with characterization and all of that, I agree. But you were kind of railing against just the tech, and in my mind, yeah, he could build an entire different looking fleet.
Yeah.
But in his mind, he probably thinks it won't look like Star Wars anymore, and he wants it to look like Star Wars.
But that's no reason not to do it. There's no reason to do it. Whichever one supports my case. But it's like the galaxy.
But you have to understand, like as a prequel apologist, you have to understand that everybody hates those movies, and they just want to feel Star Wars again.
Not anymore. And the more people rewatch these movies, the less hate there will be for prequels. I was starting to feel it when I was trudging through these movies, and I guarantee
you can't make blanket statements speaking for the masses.
There is way more affection for the prequels now than there was when these movies first came out, and a lot of that is to do with the terrible job these movies did with the franchise. Like I say, I wouldn't have a leg to stand on in arguing for the prequels if these movies didn't exist. There is another way. It's not perfect, but it's
it's not good.
But it's, it often not good. But it's something. It's a contribution to the world of art and most of the time these movies are not. They're the cinematic equivalent of treading water.
That I can't disagree with.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're gonna have to bog down is what we're gonna have to do and talk about each of these movies separately, because I don't know. You're right in the sense that, especially since we're here to rank these movies and declare them good or bad.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Because that's how I feel about these movies in general. Like I'm treading water. I don't know what to do with these movies. I know you know what to do with them, but
well, no, they're treading water. That's why you feel that way, is because they're treading water. They don't know what to do. J.J. Abrams knows less about what to do with the story here than you do.
I'm far more sympathetic to these movies than I am to the prequels. I enjoy watching these movies more than the prequels.
Well, they look a lot better. They're more harmonious in how they integrate space.
Yeah.
Not space as in space, the final frontier.
Yes.
But like space as in cinematic space.
Yes.
Their effects are pretty much flawless. There's maybe one shot in all three movies that doesn't work. One effect shot that doesn't work in all three movies that I noticed, which is crazy, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And they get progressively better. So, but on even on the level of style, I think these are flawed movies. Like I don't think stylistically they are at full capacity.
I don't think there's a lot of aesthetically, yeah. I don't think there's a lot of style in them.
No.
Yeah.
Again, The Last Jedi, that's the problem, because The Last Jedi is this turd in, depending on your view, like a turd in a punch bowl or a punch bowl in a turd. I mean, it's like, oh, look, I found a punch bowl in my turd. Depending on your point of view. But,
if you dig down into the turd, there's punch in there.
In that movie, there is some spectacle that is on a par with the best of Star Wars.
Yeah. There are moments.
I would say. I don't know, but yeah, and there is kind of like overt style in a way that, well, I don't know. I mean, it's just coming from a different perspective, because I think J.J. Abrams is an overt stylist, but his content is bland and safe and middle of the road, but he's one of those modern day directors who likes to spin the camera around and like it's inside a giant tombola. Like Zack, he's got that Zack Snyder disease. And
when it's following the Millennium Falcon, that kind of shit, you mean?
Yeah, and Rian Johnson, obviously, he has some pretty experimental moments in The Last Jedi, but like you, I feel like it doesn't go anywhere, or I think Rian Johnson is more of an auteur in that sense. Like he's messing about with everything. He's messing with everything in that movie. And J.J. Abrams is not. He's straightening everything out.
Yeah.
Which is what appealed to me about The Force Awakens when I first saw it. This kind of return to a sense of normalcy after the prequels and just in general in modern day effects cinema.
Yeah, it took me a while to come down off of that movie because it was such a return to normalcy the first time I saw it that I was championing, I was such a champion for the movie at first, and then you start really thinking about it. Like you said, it's a almost kind of shot-for-shot blueprint of A New Hope.
Yeah.
It follows all the same beats.
And while that, given that it does that, in terms of the storytelling and the characterization it actually does, that's a house of cards. Like, you pull one of those cards out, it all falls away. Like, this was the first time watching The Force Awakens that I realized this movie is one long side quest.
Mm-hmm.
There is a high-stakes story in here, but it's not the story the movie's following. There's a story about the destruction of a galactic government and the battle to destroy genocidal weapons, but that's all. Those are all footnotes in a movie about trying to find an old man on a hill.
Yeah, right.
And this was the first time that ever occurred to me. It's like, boy, this movie has its priorities wrong. So even within that, we're doing Star Wars all over again. They completely missed the point of
Yeah.
There was always stakes and objectives to everything they did in that movie, and you've missed all of those and gone with you've
Right.
taken the road less traveled every single time.
Yeah.
You followed like the D story. I don't remember what my original point was.
I know.
But
Part of me feels so deeply uncomfortable. I feel inadequate to the task of talking about these three movies right now.
Why?
Because two of them I hadn't watched much, and I was very surprised when I did watch them, but like their flaws are so deep.
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm going to be babbling and talking around them in a way that will not be coherent.
That's not on you. Especially by the time we get to Rise of Skywalker, you think anyone's going to be blaming you for not being coherent about how you talk about this movie? No. Honestly. There was no one I'd rather be in my corner defending me than Mike Shantz on these movies. Because you see the good. You see what people are trying to do more than I do.
Yeah.
And you're always gonna give them that benefit of the doubt.
And I had revelations, big time revelations about the things they could have done with these movies, and I see glimpses of it in moments.
Don't get me started on
broke my heart
on the treatment I wrote before these movies came out. And when those movies came out, I was like, why didn't I write this down properly? I could have sued everyone. They did everything I wanted to do, but badly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had a Kylo Ren character.
Mm-hmm.
I had most of it, to be honest. I had the Empire guy rescuing the rebel. It was Luke in my version instead of Poe, but same deal. I was going, oh, why didn't I write this down in detail?
You went air quotes Poe.
I could have copyrighted it, and I could have made my fortune suing J.J. Abrams, which
you would have gotten thrown out of court.
The stage well, you know, look at what courts are, my friends. The highest court in the land.
Yeah.
Has set the bar pretty low on this. But I was
it's
just
not
like,
what we're here for.
Can you imagine that's like my legacy is that I'm the man who sued J.J. Abrams and got all his Star Wars royalties?
Honestly?
I'd be the happiest man
Yes,
alive.
I can imagine that.
I'd be like
you as the man who sued J.J. Abrams? Yes, I can imagine that.
I'd be like
just out of spite.
Chester J. Lampwick in that episode of The Simpsons, the original Itchy and Scratchy creator, played by Kirk Douglas. This is my solid gold house. Shine a shoe, sir. Catch you on the way back.
I can imagine you at the Supreme Court talking to John Roberts. Why did you sue this man? For spite.
For spite.
I hate him and everything he does and stands for.
You're right.
He took a half an idea from me, and I want to see him punished.
It would be like a political or a newspaper cartoon, because it'd be like the cartoon would be me with my legal filing, and I'd be going, J.J. Abrams stole my ideas, and there'd be a guy going, join the queue, and then there's this long line of George Lucas and Gene Roddenberry and all these people.
Oh, that was a big note for me in the third movie. I started making notes of all the other franchises we started borrowing from. I was like, Spice Guy? What the fuck? Is this Dune now?
Oh, Star Wars ripped off, the original trilogy Star Wars ripped off Dune pretty badly, I think. I don't think you can blame J.J. Abrams for that. And I don't say that often.
But I wanted to.
I want to, but I can't in good conscience, because Spice has always been there, and it's always been a reference to.
I don't remember any Spice ever coming before that moment.
Solo's a Spice runner.
Okay.
Spice Mines of Castle.
All right, settle down.
Yeah, it's a Tatooine. What is Tatooine but Arrakis?
True.
That sounds like a William Shatner song. What is
Tatooine
without Arrakis?
but Arrakis?
But that
All
we're not
right,
here to
let's
talk about
get
William-
down.
Well, we're not here to talk about William Shatner.
We're not here to talk about him, Tom. Let's get down to our stated fucking business,
Unfortunately.
please.
Yeah, let's do it.
We got to rank.
Yeah, let's do it. Your move, sir.
I really went into this knowing exactly what I thought I'd do.
Me too.
And then I watched the first two movies and I was still sure. And then I started watching the third movie and started thinking about the other two movies and started thinking about the things that I like and don't like. And
Oh, you watch these in order? I'm kidding. Actually, would it make a difference?
I found myself, arguing for things that I thought worked or could have worked,
No,
which
you
is
can't,
different
no.
than working.
No. Inadmissible, Your Honor. Sidebar.
In the end, I think I felt like I did from the first moment I saw one of these movies. And I think the most satisfying movie is The Force Awakens.
Okay.
That is the top of my list for these three movies.
Okay. Well,
And in a series filled with flaws, this one is the least flawed to me. So that's why it's at the top of the list. I have major problems with structure and choices that they make in those other two movies that I cannot ignore, despite the fact that both those movies I enjoyed way more than I ever did the first time I saw them.
I'll agree to the extent that I think The Force Awakens is better at hiding its flaws than the other two movies.
That might be true.
I think it may be as flawed as at least one other of those movies, and maybe more flawed than even that movie. There was a time where I probably would have blanket agreed with you when I saw Force Awakens in 2015. Again, that idea of the return to normalcy that J.J. Abrams kind of heralded in, and I want to give him credit as much as possible for the sake of variety, and he took the most irritating stylistic trait of the prequels, which was how busy it looked, and he stripped it down and to a level where it felt like unified, coherent cinematic space again.
Yes.
And again, not space, the Final Frontier space, but space as in space on the space on screen. So I'm full credit for that, and that smoke screen carried me along for a while, but it's not the top of my list.
I didn't think so.
But I wanted to tell you that, to let you know that is a perfectly serviceable argument about this movie. And there's an argument that this should automatically go to the top of the list because of how well it conceals how crummy it is. No, I'm serious, and I'm absolutely serious. A good smoke screen.
I'm laughing because I think you might be right, but
a good smoke screen is worth 1,000 points, right, in movie terms. So the top of my list is a movie that is certainly the most divisive Star Wars film made to date before the Rey movie comes out. Maybe the most divisive movie in franchise cinema, modern cinema, maybe even. And the fan reaction to the
I know
movie,
what it is. You can't fool me.
Well, the fan reaction to this movie was to basically to go to an extreme and take a side. You either love it or you hate it. And my reaction to the movie was like, why can't we just split the difference? There's something like my reaction then and my reaction now to this movie is meh. It's the literal definition for me of meh. Like some things about it, I didn't like others. What I didn't like and what I did like is about a 50-50 split. Meh.
All right, I thought you liked it more than that, I'll be honest. So,
Well, of course we're talking about The Last Jedi. What other movie could we be talking about?
yeah.
Because nobody liked The Rise of Skywalker. And, so I'm such a bitch. But anyway, like, just for me, I never understood why people didn't have a more middle-of-the-road reaction to this movie, why it inspired such a vociferous reaction on either side of the debate, because to me, what's bad about this movie and what's good about it kind of cancels each other out. So it's meh. And the fact that I'm putting meh at the top of my list tells you about where we might be going in terms of quality and declaration.
Oh, that's great.
But it's interesting because I even agree that the things I like about the movie I really like, and the things I dislike about the movie I really dislike. But that doesn't make me angry. It doesn't make me want to jump to one of those positions. It just makes me want to go, you know, it's fine. It's fine. You know, it swings. You know, the old saying, it swings and roundabouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's as broad as it is long. You know, it's like,
long.
it's the longest, right? It's the longest one of these movies. I was surprised that
Yeah.
they got the longest in the middle and then got shorter again.
Well, I have theories, but I'll save it for the episode.
What theories about why people go to either the dark or the light over this movie?
No, theories about why it's so long.
Oh, well, because it's essentially the end of the trilogy.
Tom, you calm down. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like until you get to the end of The Rise of Skywalker, that feels like a middle movie, and the middle movie feels like an end movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can't reconcile that.
So at 50% capacity, I'm putting it at the top of my list.
50% capacity of it working is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, all right, what is the next movie on your list, and at what percentage capacity is it working?
This is a numbers game. No, we got to hear from you. What are you putting second?
All right. I thought this was going to be a foregone conclusion.
Oh, I know what you've done. Since you started talking, I didn't think you were going to do this originally. I know exactly what you've done. And
no, you don't.
I know exactly. Oh, okay.
I'm willing to bet you're wrong.
All right. Okay. I'll hold my anecdote back about why I think I'm right until I'm proved right or wrong.
All right. I admit freely not liking either of the latter two movies the first time I saw them.
Yeah.
Like them both much more on this round of viewing. The problems I have with Last Jedi are enormous.
Sure.
But that is a movie that takes swings. As you alluded to earlier, you talked about that.
Wild swing at everything, yeah.
Wild swings, and to me, it's a more interesting movie because of that. The problems I have with it are rather enormous, and I'll save that for the episode. You know, I'm talking about these movies as though I hate them, and I don't.
I know you don't. And the listeners know you don't. So this is a safe space, honestly.
Well, because eventually we're going to say good or bad, and it sounds like a foregone conclusion, and it's not for me.
No, it doesn't sound like a full conclusion for you. And only you, by the way.
So, but when I watched Rise of Skywalker, I just kind of went in with such a grudge and was as the movie started, I remember having thoughts like, well, this isn't so bad. Oh, I like
okay.
that.
You're
I see
taking
what
me
they're doing there.
You're taking me on a journey
Interesting.
here. Okay. This is like Pop Idol.
So I guess what I'm saying is I've got two movies here. One makes two choices three choices. All right, Jedi makes three choices
Last Jedi.
that make it not a movie.
I know exactly what you mean.
Skywalker makes a story choice that just is an anchor that weighs against the movie that is going to bury it under the sea forever.
I believe it's pronounced Emperor, not Anchor, but go on.
And I had to weigh which one was the least offensive to me. Anyway, I'm talking for too long here.
No.
At the end of the day,
this is fascinating. I love it because now basically you've gone one of two ways, and I'm fascinated to know which of those two ways you've gone.
I have gone with The Last Jedi.
Second.
That's my second.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because the really interesting thing about what you said, it was all interesting, but the really interesting thing about what you said was that it sounds like you saw The Rise of Skywalker and thought it was an improvement on The Last Jedi. Is that when you first saw those movies, is that what you thought?
No. When I first saw them, no.
Okay. But you preferred it to The Last Jedi when you first saw it. Too hard to say. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was yeah, I don't know. I thought I hated them both.
Okay.
And
fair enough,
and I don't. Now I kind of like them.
You kind of like both of them?
Things about them, yeah.
It's okay. Listen. None of this is going to stand up in court, okay?
I know.
This is like it is again a safe space. No one's listening. Unfortunately,
I just feel like the child who's excusing his abuser. That's what it feels like.
But you have no problem going after the. Okay. I thought you were going to say like the child inside you had died. Like, why can't I enjoy these?
No.
movies? And the prequel argument was always like, are these movies bad or do we hate them because we're not 10 anymore? And can't understand them because we're not 10. I don't know where these three movies fit into that argument because literally you couldn't come up with any more. You couldn't come up with. There's an infinite number of questions as to why you don't like these movies that you could ask yourself. Is it because I don't like modern movies? Is it because I don't like J.J. Abrams? Is it because I don't like Rian Johnson? Is it because I hate women? Is it because I don't like black people? Is it because you know what I mean? Like you could talk yourself into suicide with those kind of questions.
Here's the thing, though. You just said something that I think reveals an angle of your apology towards the prequels that I find interesting, because you said they're movies made for 10-year-olds. And I think that's not true. I think these three movies are made for 10-year-olds. I think the prequels are made for the ages 3 to 5.
Okay, fair. Yeah, you know what? I'll make that adjustment for you. I'm happy to bring the age range down. I agree. Yeah, 3 to 3. I mean, my son unapologetically loves Jar Jar Binks, and he's 6. So
yeah,
you're closer with your age range than mine. Yeah.
But that's what I find. I really started thinking about that. I started thinking about these three movies and how I see them as an adult, and I started thinking, what would I have thought if I was 10?
But they seem to. This is the problem. Is again this intended audience, and this and I sympathize with franchise movies now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the obvious solution is to just stop making movies from franchises that ended like 30 years ago, but.
Mm-hmm.
Given that that's not going to happen in our reality, I do sympathize with this. Like, well, who's the audience now? Is it the people who originally watched it? Is it the people who watch movies now? Is it the people Is it the people who have been there all along and are just fans of the series? Like what? Like I wouldn't know how to approach making a Star Wars movie now, because
That's the
wouldn't
thing I
know
find
who the audience is
perplexing.
anymore. And the Indiana Jones, the last Indiana Jones movie, I mean, that was a case study in who's this for.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who it's for. I don't know if they know who it's for.
I don't yeah, I agree with that. But to that point, I feel like in the 80s, franchise or not, they made movies essentially for adults. Even when you watch the Muppet movie or Muppet, the Great Muppet Caper, you would see jokes for adults. And
Sure.
as a kid, some of them would go over your head, and that was fine because you were still enjoying the movie, but you'd get it later. And it's weird to me to think of George Lucas making those prequels, because I felt like the statement I just made about making movies for adults that kids can really enjoy applies to the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't apply to the prequels. He just had 5-year-olds on the brain.
He had 5-year-olds and 80-year-olds who watch C-SPAN. It's and nothing in between. No, I'm serious. I think
I know.
The people who sit all day watch Canadian Parliament. Housebound people watching Canadian Parliament and 3 to 5-year-old kids will love the prequels.
If you were addled and eating applesauce in your old age home and flipped channels and were like, that came on, you might think, wow.
Come up on my knee, sonny.
Come on and sit on top of Pop Pop. We're going to watch this shit.
I like the tax franchise stuff, and you like the guy stepping in poop. It's a perfect movie for us. Anyway, sorry, I stepped on your point. But yes, yeah. So and then this series is what, like, what we're like for slightly older kids, tweens.
That's the thing. I think this series indicates kind of what you were saying, that they don't know who to make it for.
I think at times, and this is a kind of bold statement to make at this point, and I think they should have leaned into this more. You know how much I love the Twilight movies. So I think there's a kind of potential for a sort of young adult novel love story between Rey and Kylo Ren, or Ben, whichever version you end up believing really exists. Because that story, it's like, that is almost Twilight, that story, right? It's almost like loving the bad guy who doesn't want to be a bad guy. And so I mean, personally, I would have lent into that, and you buy yourself a brand new audience, I think. Yeah. And I think maybe they got that audience anyway, just because a bunch of people were going to see a Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
like, teens were going like, I'm kind of into this. I'm kind of into the, Rey Ren.
I would almost make the argument that that's what they did.
Yeah.
But I also, I don't know that they didn't feel confident enough in that storyline to, really put a through line for it.
You lost me at storyline, quite frankly.
Your hatred of modern franchise movies just has no bounds. I'm fascinated by it.
To be fair, it's interesting, like, when you read the reception of this movie, and people really lay into the uncertainty of that storyline. But I think when you look at it compared to the other storylines, I'm like, this is as close to a through line as we get. Like, they have sexual...
That's the other thing that perplexes me, is that,
they have sexual tension throughout the movies, and at the end, they kiss and he dies. I mean, it's classic, classic... It's young adult melodrama, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's a through line. Yeah, sure, it's melodramatic, and it's artificial, and it's unrealistic, but so is that genre.
What it isn't is on the level of Han and Leia. But melodramatic wise. Yeah. It's not, and I can't figure out, they just not
go back on itself. That's the key. It's like, it's a through, like, it's like these two are getting closer and closer together as the movies go on. Whereas every other storyline in this movie stops at the end of the first movie, turns into something different. It was walked back and turns
Right.
into something different in the second movie.
Yeah,
and then the
exactly.
third movie walks whatever that is back into
Yeah.
not what it was at the beginning, but something entirely different.
Entirely different. Yeah.
So the Ray Ren romance, which is kind of the point of criticism for so many responses to these movies that I've seen, is actually something I do not mind at all about these movies.
Me either.
And make it, like I say, make it more Twilight. Go full young adult novel on it, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway.
All right, what's your second movie?
Just to underline how far away we've gone from the topic in hand. Why? So this was a harder decision than I thought it would be.
Really? I'm surprised.
Yeah, because
I'm glad to hear that.
you might not be. You don't know what
Okay.
I've done. So we're left with two movies, two J.J. Abrams movies, that I feel are essentially two sides of the same coin in their inadequacies.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, one is extremely good at hiding its flaws.
Sure.
Slick, some may say.
Yeah.
But at the level of storytelling and characterization is as crazy and unreliable as the other movie, but the other movie is kind of wearing that on its sleeve the entire time. That it's like, we're the movie that's out of control, okay?
Yeah. Right.
We're a frenetic ride through scenes and characters that you've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's more honest about what the movie actually is than Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Rise of Skywalker is the frenetic. I mean, the movie
Yes.
has light speed skipping in it. I mean, you couldn't come up with a better metaphor for the narrative structure of that movie than light speed skipping. And you know, Force Awakens looks like a normal movie on the surface, but if you
When you start scratching down, though,
scratching that surface, it's hollow inside, and nothing stands up. But both of them, I think, obviously the Rise of Skywalker is also a reaction to the left turn of The Last Jedi in every sense, politically too. The left turn of Star Wars. This is a kind of the reset. We want to put everything back into the middle. I'm gonna go with Force Awakens as my second choice.
Okay.
Just as I said, because I think it does a better job of hiding how inadequate a movie it is. So this is how I think of Force Awakens now. It's the movie that artistically barely scraped by. It was a huge financial success, but artistically, it just about made its money back. Right. You had to enumerate the artists involved in the movie and be like, look, there's no profit here, guys. But none of you are really losing anything, okay? We'll cover your bets, okay?
Yeah.
There'll be a credit line in this casino for a long time to come. Again, like it sort of wins because of its stability, really. Like it promises her a new day in Star Wars in a way that's very attractive, and you can't really, even though it's the same person ruining it, you can't hold Force Awakens responsible for not capitalizing on its promise, because at that point the series could have gone in any direction, right?
Yeah, right.
J.J. Abrams could have suddenly figured out how to write a script and magically right, he's not going to do that. But you can't hold The Force Awakens accountable for what it didn't do, what it for setting a standard or creating promise that it didn't live up to, that subsequent movies didn't live up to. That's their problem, not the problem of Force Awakens. So for all those reasons and more, I put it second in my list.
Okay.
It's
so for both of us,
it's a good PR job on a bad Star Wars movie.
We're not supposed to declare yet, okay?
No,
Calm down.
that's not a declaration.
You just called it a bad movie.
Listen. There are some prequels that are bad Star Wars movies, and I've said those are good.
Okay, fine. So for both of us, that means Rise of Skywalker comes to the end
Yes.
of both our lists.
Yes. It's in
But you
that-
intimated that it was close.
Well, I don't think it's ontologically worse than Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it falls apart more easily as you're watching it than Force Awakens does. I mean, I had to rewatch Force Awakens 3 or 4 times to realize, oh, nothing that happens in this movie matters.
Oh, so that's my argument for Last Jedi.
Well, I would say that there's one
One aspect, yeah, one aspect
of it
especially.
that definitely doesn't matter. That is definitely
Yeah.
surplus to retirement. In Force Awakens, it's, you're following the wrong camel. You're digging in the wrong place. So, and that only occurred to me. So I'm like,
Yeah, in Force Awakens, you see the scroll, and they're like, so there's this MacGuffin. And then in the first 2 minutes of the movie, they're like, here's the MacGuffin.
But that's not the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin is the most famous character in Star Wars / fantasy science fiction.
True.
Who's it's like it's all about finding him, but the movie doesn't explain why we need to find him. Other than the fans want to see him. But if the fans want to see him, why isn't he in the movie? All of these questions is why this movie is such a mess. But from the outside, while you're watching it, it doesn't feel that way. And when you're watching Rise of Skywalker, that's all you can think about is like, what? The one thing that I couldn't get around with Rise of Skywalker was, I get going, how is it possible? I've never seen a movie where too little is happening and too much is happening at the same time. There's never enough content in each individual scene. And in a way, like, I admire, I don't think that's what they're aiming for. I think it's a byproduct of the movie being so out of control that it just doesn't, it's not even, it's like it's a movie made from a parallel universe. I don't understand how it happened. Why they call that a movie? I'm sort of like, this is what they call a movie in your reality. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, we do things differently in ours. But
yeah, but I understood everything that they were doing. Like this time around,
I did not.
From moment to moment, from scene to scene, I'm okay. So they need that thing, so they're gonna try and find that here.
But they don't.
Okay.
But then they just say it's like, oh, we didn't need that thing. And by the way,
I agree with that.
As we're writing it, we're not really sure we ever needed that thing. Like ever?
No, they needed it.
Okay, well, we'll talk about how many.
We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about how many times removed each of the individual side quests that make up the Rise of Skywalker are from what the main objective is. But Force Awakens is just that, but one through line.
Yeah.
We've got to find Luke Skywalker, and no one in the movie asks why and
why?
What will happen. Why and what will happen when we do? These are big questions for any
Absolutely
story.
Nothing.
And that's one of the moments where I really admire Rian Johnson. Not to blow our actual discussion of the movie, but he approached.
I know you like that.
He approached the beginning of The Last Jedi with going as the worst case scenario of what if Luke doesn't want to come, and he's like, let's base the whole movie around that.
Yeah.
So what is the worst case narrative scenario for J.J. Abrams becomes the reason that Rian Johnson makes the movie.
You know that poignant movie on top of Planet Ireland when she was holding out the lightsaber? What if Luke just said, fuck you?
Yeah. And then, everyone's going, everyone in the movie's going, oh, we didn't have a plan B if this didn't work.
Yeah.
The movie should have been called "We Have No Plan B." Episode 7, We Have No Plan B.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. Well, that's so we've done the same, have we? No, you put Force
No.
Awakens at the top.
Yeah. We just
Then
have the
let's-
same on the bottom.
So you were chronological,
I was.
and I was
Not.
nonological. But that is the way I've ranked every Star Wars trilogy up to this point. Same.
Oh,
order.
you always go in the middle? Yeah, that's right. You always go the middle.
Middle first, first second, third.
I'd love to be able to tell you you're so wrong, but no, I can't.
There's a lot of people who disagree with putting
Clones.
Attack of the Clones at the. Yeah, I think that's my weak spot. Let's just say. You want it. You know, that's my Achilles heel. You wanted to get me down. That's where I'd aim the stone.
All right, it feels like a foregone conclusion for you. Are all these movies bad?
Well, the question is, can a meh movie ever be good?
Hmm.
And I wrestled with this. So I'm thinking about what have we done before with like movies that are equal parts good and bad. And like I say, it's the literal definition of meh. There are 4 plots in this movie. 2 of them work, 2 of them fail.
Okay.
So literally, the quality
They
is...
cancel each other out.
The quality is like right down the middle. I've never seen a movie that is that clear cut down the middle.
I admit fully that I didn't even want to answer the question. I wanted to come up with a third category or a fourth category that went either they're good bad or bad good.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think
And I wanted to hedge my bets on those
Yeah.
so desperately. But that's not what we're here to do, but
No. And ultimately, I came down on the side of, if half your movie isn't working, how can it be a good movie?
Hmm.
How can that much of your movie not work and it still be good? Because there is no redeeming features about 2 out of these 4 storylines.
Oh, okay.
And it's not like the other 2 storylines are flawless. Flawless pieces of storytelling. I think there are 2 stories. We'll talk, and I won't blow it now. We'll talk about it when we talk about Last Jedi. But there are 2 storylines in The Last Jedi, which I think are both really strong storylines, and there's a lot of interesting material in them. They're still problematic, but there's 2 storylines in the movie that are totally redundant.
I'll say.
And to the point where, they I think they do combine to make this a bad movie overall.
Okay.
But
And then it's foregone conclusion on 7 and 9? Bad?
well, again, like I did have to think twice about Force Awakens because
Mm-hmm.
I wrestled with the question, is a safe conservative retreat in a sequel necessarily a bad thing? And the movie that came to mind was Halloween 4.
Mm.
I was like, that was kind of a conservative safe retreat into the original movie. Really good movie.
Yeah.
It works. So should I hold that against this movie? The difference, what I ended up coming down is, the difference is, if you're gonna go conservative, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you need competence with that.
Yeah.
And all I see in the Force Awakens in storytelling characterization is incompetence. And Halloween 4 backs up its kind of retreat into safe territory with superb characters and really good solid storytelling. And Force Awakens doesn't have that, and I don't think J.J. Abrams is capable of that.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm going to counter.
Okay? You don't. You've turned against Halloween 4. That's the only thing I can imagine you're gonna say.
I'm never turning against that movie.
No.
By the way, do you know that we have over 1,000 downloads for that movie?
That's excellent.
Have I told you that? How great is
Uh,
that? It's our most.
Well, yeah, honestly, if you want a counterpoint, if you want the two of us going, you know what, this is safe, but you know, it knows what it's doing.
All right, I have my counter
Okay.
argument.
Yeah.
I really wrestled with good bad because it's not like I don't see every single flaw in these movies, and there are so many.
Yeah.
So I wanted to like blanket bad them. But as I watched all three, I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm enjoying these movies.
Sure.
Because as we stated at the top of this episode 9 hours ago, it's
We're only just getting started, people.
from scene to scene, there's good stuff that you're watching in scene to scene. It doesn't mean that,
Yeah. It's when you think about it that
you know,
it goes
you're
wrong.
getting good story. But then I thought of one thing, because one thing kept striking me over and over and over again as I watched these movies. And you spoke to it a second ago. You derided characterization.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to push back on this one point, and that's Daisy Ridley. I think
Interesting. You
Daisy
use the actor's
Ridley-
name, not the character.
hang on. I'm going to say that I think Daisy Ridley's Ray in this movie, in these three movies, are the strongest thing any of these movies have going for it. I think when I watch her, it feels like I'm watching Mark Hamill. In the sense of, I think we've talked about this before. When you go back and you look at extras from Star Wars, like auditions, you can see Kurt Russell auditioning for Luke Skywalker.
He can't do it. He doesn't get it.
And he doesn't get it.
And that's Kurt
He
Russell.
doesn't get the universe. He doesn't understand what Star Wars is.
It also makes him perfect for Escape from New York.
Yeah. But when you watch Mark Hamill, you immediately go, that guy gets it. He understands everything that's going on. And I think there's been this roller coaster with Mark Hamill himself. I think he was, you know, maybe it was in the face of Harrison Ford, who's such a gifted actor.
Yeah.
You know, I think he was thought of as a lesser actor. And then he didn't have much of a career, certainly not the career that Harrison Ford had after Star Wars. And now he's kind of rejoined in this renaissance of people understanding this guy is good at what he does. You know, he can really bring it.
Yeah. If you watched animation
Yeah.
consistently, you would have never lost faith in Mark Hamill.
You would never would have. Yes,
He
exactly.
banked some of the best performances anyone's ever given vocally in those.
Given. But that's how I feel when I watch Daisy Ridley. As I watch her, I think a few things. I think she gets this universe. She gets that character. She is a waypoint
Don't use
for
that
all
word.
three of these movies.
That's
as
not
I
good. No, please.
no,
She is not.
She is a-
Holtron.
she is a beacon of light
Don't tar
for
her with
all
that
of these
brush.
movies. How
No,
dare you?
I'm not objecting to that. I'm objecting to the comparison with a, you know, because the holocrons are described as waypoints, and I don't want to associate her associated with that level of nonsense.
All right, fine.
My response to her is mixed. I definitely don't like how he's written, and I have some issues with her performance, although I do think there are strengths there. But
Oh no, I love her in these movies.
yeah, I know a lot of people really buy into her, including you apparently. But I've never done that. I will say, if we're just talking solely about performances, not writing of characters, or even directing of characters for that matter,
Yeah,
I don't think
those are different things.
I don't think Adam Driver puts a foot wrong in any of these movies.
That's my other point. And the interesting thing is that the thing that you were talking about, I think just a little while ago, about their relationship, and it progresses through each of the three movies actually really well. And they have great chemistry. And
yeah, they do.
So
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, and I don't know if I've said this to you before. I don't know which of my co-stars I've had this conversation with. I may have had it with you, but the myth of chemistry between actors, it's always goes down to two actors working hard. They can find chemistry. It's not you have it or you don't. If two actors are working equally hard, they will have chemistry.
I agree.
And I think what I see is in those two performances is sheer work ethic. Especially Adam Driver. It's like, I am so glad that the person they decided to cast, of all the morons out there in the movie industry, in all the terrible young actors that could have played this role.
Sure.
They went with a former Marine.
Yeah.
What a good choice, because this guy is going to stay the course no matter what ridiculous things you ask him to do. And there are some huge
and there are plenty
as an actor. But you don't leave the movies going, well, that guy didn't live up to all that stuff they were making him do. That's
I agree.
The last thing you think. And think of what the ringer they put him through in these movies. And he comes out, I mean, not shining, because I don't think he wants to shine, but he's sort of like, look, I did my job. And I love the fact that he's now, it's like, Star Wars is dead to me. I did my time. It's like a Marine, right? He's military. He's sort of like, I served my 3 tours and I'm done.
When somebody's listening to ghost voices in some other future movie, it won't be his.
Yeah. And, there's times when he is so good, I bemoan that their writing is so off because of his commitment to the bit. Like, something that carries me through The Force Awakens is the idea that, well, it's not an idea, Snoke says it in The Last Jedi, it's like you're a child in a mask. That is exactly how Adam Driver played it, because that's the only way someone who is good can rationally play it. And so by the end of the first movie, J.J. Abrams must be like, oh my god, like, this is supposed to be our villain, but what we've done is created, like, this kind of hyperactive juvenile.
That's one of my problems with...
But we've done...
That's a writing problem.
It is a writing problem, but I'm like... But he sells it, and he sells it too well, to the point where... To the point where you're like, this is good.
It becomes...
I like this. It's totally wrong. It's harming the movie, but it is brilliant to watch.
So that's, I mean, we'll get to it when we get to the movie, but I don't understand the choice to infantilize your villain.
No, exactly.
That you want to be afraid of. It almost feels like it's just so you get the cursory jokes that come at the end of every tantrum, which really bothers me, but we'll get there.
Yeah, well, it was, we both agree it was a misstep, but I think there are times when I'm sort of like, I'm cheering on this characterization, even though I know it's detrimentally affecting the movie that I'm watching.
Yeah.
And that's the strength of it. That's the strength of Adam Driver, as Jiminy Glick.
Yeah. So, but you latched on to what was going to be my second argument, which was that second performance of Adam Driver, and then the two of them connected. And then I also kind of want to mention that until that third movie, I don't even know if they were in the same room because of the way they start talking about Force shit. They're doing this great work, working with each other, possibly separated, not even in the same room.
And they shouldn't be forced to, right? This whole telecommuting by force thing is, again, it's detrimental to the chemistry of these two characters.
Yes.
They rise above it, but they shouldn't have to deal with it.
They shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Anyway, those two kind of, I almost keep wanting to say anchors, but that seems like a pejorative. But these two performances
I know what you mean.
help kind of ground the movie for me.
They're your North Star.
Because they're North Stars because they're so good with sometimes the shittiest fucking material.
Yeah.
I find that the movies rise above the level of shit they should be in. Enough for me to say I think they're good enough for me to call good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I never would have said that upon seeing at least 2 of these movies. And probably a couple of years after seeing the first movie.
Yeah. And
I can't believe I'm even fucking saying that.
It's good. It's good. I like that. The way that you describe it makes total sense. And you shouldn't be afraid of embracing those feelings. As you know, I come from the dark side. I come from a more of a Sith-like place. So I am going to say that they're all bad, but I wanted to go into a little more detail about why I think Rise of Skywalker is a bad movie, because, and I think you probably feel the same thing. On the it's Cuckoo Bananas movie, whichever way you slice it. The experience of watching it is not as off-putting as you think it would be.
I agree. I was astonished by it.
So, that is obviously, given what's on screen, that's an achievement in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason, there's a specific reason why I can't even entertain calling it a good movie, and that's, there's something that has been commented on frequently about basically J.J. Abrams retcons everything from The Last Jedi. And again, in our experience of watching sequels, retconning is sometimes a means to an end. Sometimes you have to do it, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's all about how you handle it. Again, Halloween 4. I don't know why I keep going back to that movie, but it's the same dialogue. What bothers me is the gaslighting that comes with that. Because if you want to retcon everything that happened in The Last Jedi, go ahead and do it. But don't tell me I didn't see what I saw. Don't tell me this was chapter 1 of the story, and this is chapter 2. I just can't. That's the thing that really irritates me. It's not the retconning; it's the gaslighting. It's the Orwellian dimension of telling me I shouldn't believe my own eyes on what I saw.
That's perfectly well reasoned, sir.
Yeah, that's why I find
I will not counter that attack.
Yeah. Don't you tell me I didn't see all those people not respond to that distress signal.
Yeah, right.
Don't tell me that I didn't believe in that. No, it was a cold hard fact. It happened. It's like that great Steve Martin joke that I saw recently on the Apple documentary, where he begins his bit by...
I haven't watched it yet.
Well, it's not a spoiler. It's a joke that's been around since the 70s. But he comes on stage and he says, "You remember a couple of years ago when the Earth blew up? You remember? Anyone remember? It's amazing how quickly we forget, right? I go to a crowd of people and half of you have forgotten that happened." And it just kind of keeps spiraling, and then he's like, "Don't you remember? We had to leave the Earth and come to this planet and start all over again, and we brainwashed everyone so the stupid people wouldn't realize it." And then he sort of stops and looks around and goes, "Oh." But that's what J.J. Abrams is trying to do throughout this movie. He's trying to tell me that not only did he do the retcon thing of whatever happened in the Last Jedi, it didn't really happen, but he's telling me that it's my problem for not watching it properly. It's just an insult. It's objectionable media.
You didn't clap hard enough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like, well, you didn't. If you'd have believed more, then then those thousands of spaceships would have come. And then
It's your fault,
well,
Poe.
you know, if Lando would have made the call, it would have all been different.
Yeah.
Really? Fucking retired fucking mining administrator. Yeah, that's right. That's what everyone looks to in
From
the
Cloud
galaxy.
City.
And just to say, I've got a lot. One of my big revelations was about Billy D. Williams, because I had a very different experience in the theater than I had when I rewatched his performance.
I did too. That's odd. Yeah. Let's save it.
Get there. Yeah, well, definitely, yeah.
All right.
We got to save something for the actual episodes.
Please.
We could just end it here, couldn't we? We've already
You mean
said enough.
We've talked
already
about
said
all
enough
three of
about
them?
These three movies. But anyway, yeah. So, all bad for me, all good for you.
All good.
Yeah.
Odd.
Do you think it's odd? Why do you think it's odd? That's how I thought it was going to go.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, I thought you'd struggle over The Last Jedi. I thought it was going to be at the bottom of your list.
Interesting, right?
But I thought that you would err on the side of good.
Okay. I thought I'd let loose hatred of these movies in the past.
But I think. Oh, so you feel like that you've already expelled that hatred, and now you have nothing but love.
Maybe it's all that's left.
That's great. Is that a plug for one of the movies you've been in? What's the title of a movie you've been in?
It does sound like it, doesn't it?
You might call it
Love
a
you all.
one-man bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good for the podcast.
Mhm.
However, I think I have the best chance of unseating you on Force Awakens than any other of these movies. I think if you see Force Awakens through my eyes.
No, I mean, it's not like my eyes aren't already open.
Yeah, they're open, but it's like it's gonna be like all of me. I don't know why I keep talking about Steve Martin, but there's gonna be this little Lily Tomlin thing in your head that is working
Wake
against
up!
working against your best interests, ruining your dating life.
What was that guy's name? Carrie Elcare? Who was that old bald actor that's in The Sting? That plays his boss. He's on the stand in All of Me, and she has to wake him up because he's asleep.
I want to rewatch All of Me. I haven't seen it in so long.
I literally just rewatched it a couple of months ago. I think it's on Prime.
Oh, good. I'll really, I hope so. After that documentary, I had a hankering to watch all of Steve Martin's movies, even the bad ones.
All right. We're going to leave it there then, ladies and gentlemen. All that's left is for you to tell us what you think. Where is your ranking for these final three movies in the Skywalker saga?
I know what one of you thinks.
You do?
Because they already told us when we were covering the prequels, so bring that up in our pitch a sequel episode.
Very good, then. You'll have to retell us.
Yeah, it's short and to the point.
All right.
Unlike anything we managed to cover.
And unlike anything we ever say, this fucking podcast.
We can rely on our listeners to brevity more than we can ourselves.
Yeah. All right. So, are they good? Are they bad? What's your ranking? Find us on Facebook. Find us on Instagram. Find us on Threads. Whatever the fuck that is.
Don't say it like that. If you're gonna say it like that, you might as well not say it.
Don't find us on X. We can agree on that.
We can. Yeah. X is the dark side.
Yeah, send an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. All right. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, Michael Shantz here of the How Dare You Awards. When you hear us next, we'll be talking about Star Wars: The Force Awakens. These are the official titles. They put Star Wars in front of all of them. Fucking idiotic.
It really irritates you. Why would it irritate? Why are you against people knowing what the movie they're watching is?
None of the first movies, it's Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
But there's 6 more.
Yeah, but so what? We don't know it's fucking Star Wars? Just tell me the fucking title.
Well, you've got to, first of all, you've got to explain why the next
Does every
one
title have to have a
takes place
fucking
before-
colon?
I would argue yes, at least one. Because you've got to put the numbers of the episodes in.
That's not till the scroll.
What do you mean?
These aren't like the prequels. This doesn't say Star Wars Episode 6
Oh, it doesn't?
or 7. No, it's just Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Oh, I gotta go back and watch them then. They don't put the episode numbers in?
They do on the scroll, but when you look it up online, it'll just say
Oh, I
Star
see.
Wars: The Force
Phew.
Awakens.
I said that would have been a serious Mandela effect if I put that in.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. I understand your objection to numbering them. I don't understand, ironically, given that you love numbers more than anything else in titles. But I don't understand your objection to telling people it's Star Wars.
It's
What's wrong with
redundant.
that?
We don't need it.
It's not redundant. It's branding.
Nonsense.
But it's like Indiana Jones, right? You put
Yeah,
that in
because
the
they
title.
re-fucking-fashioned Raiders of the Lost
Oh,
Ark to
here
be
we
Indiana
go.
Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders!
I apologize.
Big bold
You
print.
You can finish this can of worms for me. Don't worry. It's all yours.
Fucking nonsense. Say goodbye to everybody, Tom.
No, thank you.
People are going to wonder if that's a quote or if you're just not doing it.
That's true. Yeah, it is a quote. It's J.J. Abrams. It's his actual voice
Yeah.
as Dio, and in the final movie, he cast himself as the robot who saves the galaxy
There you go.
with great humility.
Comes great
And-
responsibility.
He was a bad robot.
There's no bigger fuck you to everybody than at the end of the credits and that bad robot comes cruising along.
Oh, is it a post-credit scene? No. I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had one, maybe 2 craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need, the Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys